Um, Hello all. My name is Nikos Digelidis. I am professor at the University of Thessaly and also president of the Spectrum Institute for Teaching and Learning. I'm planning to talk about the taxonomy of the spectrum and in-depth analysis and share with you thoughts, questions, and comments uh, around the spectrum. I just need to stress the fact that Sarah Ashworth and also Muska Monston, they both got an honorary doctorate in the Jyvaskyla Yliopiston in Finland, in the university that is hosting this AIESEP 2024 Congress. My inspiration and aim for this presentation is to examine possibilities, behaviors, and taxonomies using logic, but also math in order to analyze and discuss the spectrum of teaching style and possible future evolution of the theory. There are certain questions around not only the spectrum, around teaching, I would say. For example, do we need or do we have a consensus about teaching? This is a question not necessarily been answered yet. I would stress the fact that we really need a spectrum, and these are some arguments that, for example, Moston stated back in 1992. So for many reasons, like expressing personal and professional skills, being effective in teaching, the diversity of student population, the multiple objectives of education, and the need for a coherent, comprehensive, integrated infrastructure for teaching are basic arguments to support the need for a spectrum and a minimum consensus in teaching. So why teaching methods or teaching styles are important? There are many reasons, and perhaps we could sum up all these in these three statements being expressed by Melograno 1997. We know that students with the same characteristics, perhaps same age or same skills, they learn with very different ways. They learn with very different pace, and they might react so differently in the same methods or content. So, do we need a variety of instructional methods or models? There are many who would argue that we need a spectrum or a variety of instructional methods. Here is just an example from Metzler and Colquitt. No single instructional method can meet all students' needs expressed in SAPE America national standards for physical education. It seems that there is a consensus about having an agreement about teaching. However, there are multiple approaches and views to this for those who are familiar with teaching. And sometimes with a variation of terms we use in teaching, we would probably say that Houston might have a problem to help us land somewhere on Earth. Anyway, we still need to think about the first revelation that Muska expressed about the non versus approach, and the axiom of the spectrum, which was stated as teaching can be viewed as a decision-making process. And this axiom of the spectrum of teaching styles is inclusive to any approach to teaching. This would mean that the spectrum of teaching styles is a pedagogical framework that includes all possible ways to teach. So the spectrum of teaching styles is a unique pedagogical framework for teaching taxonomy, and this can be very helpful when we are trying to translate somehow theory into praxis. So far, apart from the spectrum theory, we do not have another, let's say, taxonomy system in relation with teaching. So the spectrum of teaching styles is unique, even more from this side. So when we try to discuss about taxonomy, one might think why taxonomy is important to teaching. I would say, or I would like to remind to everybody that taxonomies are important to any kind of science. So all sciences have their own taxonomies. So what could be the use of a clear teaching methods taxonomy, for example? And a taxonomy could help us making research and practice much easier and help us understand what are the differences between, or the similarities between different teaching approaches or teaching styles, and how can we differentiate, or how can we mix, for example, different teaching approaches in our daily routines. Taxonomy would have been also useful in order to be able to discuss the relations between styles, models, methods, but mainly could help teachers understand how they could teach whatever we ask them to teach through the established curricula. Another question within this spectrum theory is related with how many clusters exist. And this is something that have been answered by Moston and Ashworth by setting reproductive and productive clusters. And this was the main hypothesis in order to examine this structure by a study made by Sirbas and colleagues, which showed that the 11 teaching styles, but the 11-factor model fit the data, and the two clusters model was the one with the lower fit. So this means that it fit the data, but not the best way, just to put it simple. The model with the best fit was the one with these four clusters named here in this article that you see below as the direct cluster, the student assessment cluster, discovery, and student-initiated cluster. And actually, this is, if you read the article, you will understand that this is also proof that this theory of spectrum teaching styles that we all discuss actually exists. Now, how many teaching styles are there? The spectrum shows us possible ways for teaching and learning, and we also have said that it's an inclusive approach. But have we explored all ways yet? I'm not sure how we would respond to this question. However, we can make a hypothesis so that the way of making decisions provides an insight to the taxonomy of spectrum, a framework that may generate teaching approaches we might have never explored or we haven't explored yet. And this is something we have seen also through the almost 60 years history of the spectrum. for those who know, the first book written by Moston back in 1966 was describing 8 landmark teaching styles. During the 70s, with the following versions of the book, we had 10 landmark teaching styles. During the 80s, we do see that, and now, of course, we discuss about 11 landmark teaching styles. And perhaps in the future, maybe there might be other options. And in order to include all these options, Sarah Ashworth made an assumption about the canopies that I will express a bit later. How can we have a taxonomy? In order to have a taxonomy, it is important to look for at least one common characteristic among teaching styles so that you can make an objective differentiation. And if you look in the anatomy of any style that we use, you will see that in the upper part of this graphic, there are each style has a set of decisions that must be made, and we categorize these set of decisions as pre-impact, impact, and post-impact. And this means that each teaching style is a set of decisions, and different set of decisions could produce a different teaching style. Also, further, different choices within the same teaching style may lead to different outcomes. So this is just a study we did before 20 years. The experimental, we had 2 groups here where we had only one lesson plan, and we were working with a practice style of teaching. And the only difference between the experimental and the control group was the fact that in the control group, there was a pre-decided order for the stations that the students would follow. And while in the experimental group, they had the option to make a decision. I mean, the student had the decision to go either to station A or station B, or I mean, making decision about the order of the station. So this is very simple, but it made a lot of difference in the outcomes, as you can see here. For example, the experimental group had higher scores in intrinsic interest for physical education lesson, in intrinsic motivation, and perceived social supportive climate, while the control group had higher scores in extrinsic motivation, lack of motivation, and in task involving climate. So just to return back here in our discussion, so decisions are grouped into those 3 sets. Pre-impact, meaning decisions made about planning the interactions between the teacher and the learner. Impact means implies decisions made about how the learner is to engage in the planned activities. And post-impact were decisions made about learner task and role performance in the planned activities. And if you check every teaching style, you will find that there is a combination of this set of decisions. T means that the teacher makes the decisions here. Also, in impact phase and also in post-impact phase. So this is just an example from the command style. And this is just a table that shows decision-making chart for teaching styles across all the spectrum. So starting from the command style, where all decisions being made by the teacher, until the self-teaching style, where all the decisions are being made by the learner. Of course, it's interesting what is happening in between. Now, if you go and analyze all these possible combinations, you will find that there are at least 27 cases based on who makes the decision and in which phase. And this is a paper that I published before many years in Greek language. So if you see here, there are 27 cases, and with this chart, you will see that I have highlighted with yellow only the cases where right now we refer with the 11 landmark teaching styles that we all know. So there are many other cases, as you can see, so 22 cases in this table, for example, where we haven't explored yet within the framework of the spectrum. And of course, this is something that has been somehow predicted by the theory. If you check the book in our website and in the book. So the spectrum is not limited to 11 landmark styles. Between styles might exist a vast array of supporting pedagogical variations called canopies, but at the same time, we might have not only canopies in between two cases here, but also there are many other possibilities that we haven't explored. So just to conclude really here, the spectrum of teaching styles as a pedagogical framework still has a lot of potential that we haven't explored fully yet. And this is something we probably need to do in the near future. So there is a lot of, it's a theory with a lot of potential that I believe that it has a lot to offer in education. And just to conclude with a few words from Moston's biography here, I will let you read that slide, maybe a few seconds. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this little presentation.